at the New Orleans Saints. This is your Thursday night pregame show. This is the Dynasty Gambit. Welcome in, welcome back, whether it's your first time in a long time or it's been a long time since your first time. This is your Dynasty Gambit. I am your host, Jay. As always, you can find me on Twitter at FantasyJ77. I am joined by my faithful co-host, Brian at VandyGrad92 and Steven at Target Shares over there on Twitter as well. I know that intro is probably the highlight of Brian's night. When you get that music popping, our faces go off the screen, and Brian is probably sitting there with the big shit-eating grin, smiling, going, God, this is the best time of the week right here.
It is. Anytime that you don't see or hear us, hear the music instead, that's the best time of the week. So,
well, speaking of time of the week, it is week 7. But let's talk about week 6 real quick, Steve. How was your week 6?
It was good. I mean, as a Raheem Mostert manager in my home league that I care about the most, it was a fun week. I remember I got him. So I drafted Cooper Kupp, and then before the injury news came out, so I signed Van Jefferson and then immediately traded him away for Raheem Mostert. And that's worked out pretty well. So pretty good week, 5-1 there, easily the most points in the league. It's been a good start to the year.
Brian, I know you had a great week last week. How was it this week?
Well, in my homeboys league or league of record, I got another win, so that's always good. But other than that, it was not a great week. 3-6 instead of 7-2 is a big difference, but that's okay. In all honesty, I play 9 leagues, and I know that all of them should count equally in your own mind, but in reality, that's not the case. So the 2 that I care most about both won. So if I had to pick and choose, those were good.
Well, my week was very, very similar to yours. It was not great at all. But the one league that I will count this week as the one that I am most favorable in favor of being my favorite league is Scott Fishbowl. I not only had the win, I also got the median as well. So nice. I will take that. I am 2-0 in that league this past week, and that's the only one that freaking matters this week. Or last week, I should say. Well, tonight is the start of week 7. We are basically at the halfway point of the fantasy regular season. There are 6 teams on bye this week: Cincinnati, Dallas, Tennessee, New York Jets, Carolina, and Houston. Couple big names, couple big fantasy names that are on bye this week. Got to fill some holes, whether that was through the waiver wire or via trade. Tonight's game, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the New Orleans Saints. Saints are favored by 2. Over under of 40.5. Couple key notes. We Trevor Lawrence didn't practice on Monday. Limited practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. Came out right before we went live. Trevor Lawrence is starting tonight. The only people that are out for tonight are Zay Jones and Juwan Johnson. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, that sounds right.
The ones that matter anyway for our fantasy side of things. There are a few IDP guys that are out tonight. But let's rehash week 6. What was some of the news and notes from week 6 there, Brian?
Well, we had another big trade, just like last week when we had who'd we have? We had
Van Jefferson. Yeah.
We have the Chiefs and Jets changing minds and trading back McCole Hardman this week. I'm not sure who was confused the most, but
probably Mecole Hardman.
Yeah. Like I've been here before.
Yeah. Deja vu all over again.
I'm not sure. Yeah. So that was another big trade for sure. But we've got the real trade deadline coming up pretty soon. So
yeah, I think Hardman's played 28 snaps, I think. So he's gotten $140,000 per snap, which is, it's good money if you can get it.
I mean, I'll take it. I'd do it. You don't even have to practice to get that, do you?
Exactly. 28 snaps, you're not really playing.
Oh, good Lord. The Eagles made a big signing this week.
Yep. My birds got Julio Jones. My dad texted me. He's like, anything left in the tank for Julio Jones? I said, probably not. It's pretty fun though, but probably
Well,
not.
I mean, it's Julio Jones, probably more or less a red zone. Wait, no, they only have one red zone threat, and that is
Alpha J
Jalen
Brown.
Hurts.
Oh
No, that's
yeah.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, true.
Um,
When we're on the 1, it hurts.
yeah,
If you're
yeah,
like
yeah.
on the 6.
That's fair. The Packers got a waiver wire or signed a waiver wire claim this week in another running back in James Robinson. Does that move the needle? Does it which does that hurt Aaron Jones or does it hurt AJ Dillon or
I don't think it hurts. I'm curious what you both think. I don't think it hurts either of them. I don't know. I
Brian?
feel like James Robinson's a little dusty.
It doesn't hurt either one. I mean, it's simple bench depth if one of them gets hurt, I think.
Anthony Richardson will undergo season-ending shoulder surgery. Words are not taught to me to speak properly. Kyler Murray was designated from the IR to be able to practice. It appears that he will be on track to play, possibly in week 8. Do you believe he's going to play at all, Brian, this year? Or do you think he's going to?
Yeah, the quote that came out today is that he's going to play significantly the rest of the year. Now, do I understand why on a 1-5 team? Not really. But could there possibly be a trade market at the end of that rainbow? Maybe.
That's interesting.
Don't you think? I mean, I guess if I'm the Cardinals, maybe I want to see him play and just because this offseason is obviously huge if they're going to make a different choice at quarterback through the draft. I mean, I guess I'd still want to see Kyler Murray a little bit this year, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I think too that if there is going to be a quote unquote trade at the end of the rainbow, as Brian put, don't you think the other teams would want to see something?
Yeah.
After the injury,
I think he's playing is. I mean, I don't know. He looked awful against Notre Dame, but Caleb Williams, I guess, it's kind of like when they were trying to lose for Tua. It's kind of tank for Tua.
Yeah.
I guess it's crash for Caleb. I don't know. Going on.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, do you think Marquise Brown also gets traded too? If they get rid of Kyler, it's a contract year for him. I can't imagine he's really like part of their long-term plans if they're just rebuilding completely.
Exactly. I could see him getting moved by the trade deadline, really.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Hello, Kansas City getting another wide receiver. Oh, wait, that's not what you're saying.
They already got Mecole Hardman. They don't need anyone.
They don't need.
They're all set. Yeah, they're all set.
Yep, I got you there. Per Sean McVay, Kyron Williams is week to week. He will not go on IR. Royce Freeman will be active from the practice squad, while Darrell Henderson and Myles Gaskins were also signed. Anything moving the needle for fantasy with these guys at all? I mean, what are we doing in that Rams backfield?
They're going to give Zach Evans the first shot, but I don't know. They haven't put a lot into him. He was a 6th rounder, so
yeah, he's played a lot on the scout team too, right?
I mean, to be honest, outside of Kyron Williams, they haven't put a lot into that backfield at all.
True.
If I had to put a dark horse on anybody, I believe my dark horse candidate would be Darrell Henderson. To be honest with you, he's been in McVay's system and was somewhat successful. I mean, limited, but somewhat when it was him and Akers. So the most experience is right there, I think, in the backfield. But
I feel like they care most about pass pro. I mean, is he? I don't even know. Is he good at pass protection? We don't know anything about Zach Evans.
That's a great question. Evans is the kind of guy in college that didn't get a lot of carries either. So at both TCU and Ole Miss, he had limited touches. So I don't think he can play an expanded role necessarily. So
I feel like with all these additions, Royce Freeman, Darrell Henderson, Myles Gaskins, I don't really care about the backfield anymore. It's all Cooper Kupp, it's all Puka Nacua and Higbee and Tutu if you have to. But I'd rather have those 4 over anybody in that backfield, right? Or am I?
No, you're right. For a short-term waiver claim for this week, only because of buys, I put a bid several places for him. But long-term, in a dynasty format, I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, at least in redraft, he's the guy that I would want if I'm going to put a bet on him, which I put a small bet like you did on Zach Evans. that's the guy that maybe has the most potential because he just kind of has the unknown on his side. I don't think Darrell Henderson is really going to move the needle for you in anything if he ends up being the guy that gets the most snaps.
Oh, dang it. I was just fixing to. I think he knew what I was fixing to do to him, too. I'll save it. Oh, he's back. Okay, good. Brian, are you there? I'll let him come back on. And yeah, we'll bring him back because I've got something I want to ask him about in a league that we are actually in together. So I'll run through a couple of these real quick. Ronnie Rivers placed on short-term IR. Ryan Tannehill does not appear to need surgery. Greg Dulcich did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. Looks like Craig Reynolds didn't practice Wednesday. After a lot of news about that backfield and it, looking like it's going to be Craig Reynolds. Now, there was more news on that came out today that Jahmyr Gibbs did practice and he practiced in full.
Yep. So, but they haven't shown us any indication that they want to give him a full workload of carries. But who else is there to run the ball at this point? I guess I would just, if you're a Gibbs owner, just hope this is the week. When, if it's not now, then when?
Yeah, you kind of have to, right? It's very, very iffy over there, it seems. What's going on, Jamie? I see you over there in the chat. I appreciate you joining us tonight. What do you say here is next week is bye week from bye weeks, the bye weeks. There is no bye weeks next week. So
I don't.
Yeah, we will
Can
not
you explain
have
that to me? Why are there 6 1 week and then?
It's marketing, man. It's marketing. It is all marketing. Real quick, Brian, I'm going to touch on a couple more of these, but I wanted to bring up something that happened in a league that you and I are in that you did. I was quite surprised, but I want you to be able to explain yourself here. In the FPC Dynasty League, with the news of CMC with his injury, being the oblique injury, it's a Sunday night game. I'm sorry, is it a Sunday night or a Monday night game?
Monday night. Yeah.
Monday night game. No news on if he is going to play. We probably won't even get that news until late Sunday if we get it then. But it's very likely that they could come out Friday and say, yes, he's going to play, no issues. Or vice versa. They could come out Friday and say, yeah, he's done. So you had to make some moves. You made a move to go and get Jordan Mason. Do you think it's going to be Jordan Mason over Elijah Mitchell? Because you didn't just go and throw a little bit of fab at him. You threw a nice chunk of change at him.
I don't know. I don't remember honestly if Mitchell was available, if Elijah Mitchell was available, but I went ahead and picked up Mason for backup purposes. They'll split the backfield if CMC is out. They'll split the backfield.
Just to clarify,
Mitchell is the lead back since he's historically done it over the last couple of years. But last week he had been out with an injury, so Mason was the first man up last week. But now that he seems to be practicing in full, I could very easily see it Mitchell. So
yeah, just to clarify that Mitchell was not available because he is rostered by yours truly. And I can't even start him because I've got some guy named Raheem Mostert on that team.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, I've heard he's pretty good.
Tough choice there, but yeah.
Yeah. Having some trouble flipping Rachaad White for a wide receiver for my bench. Any advice on what receivers I should be targeting? I also have Connor. Should I get rid of him instead and gain more value? Well, first of all, let's answer the question: is Rachaad White or is it Connor that has more value, Brian?
Well, right now it's Rachaad White. When you're on a still remaining, I think 3-week IR, you don't necessarily hit peak value. I wouldn't think so.
I tend to agree with you. Let's say they're both fully healthy. Steven, would you rather have Connor or would you rather have Rachaad White?
I think rest of season, I'd rather have Rachaad White. Just not I think I'm agreeing with you guys on that one. I'm trying to think of what receivers are in the same kind of value range. I'm curious what you guys think of that. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Yeah, the Bucs have faced out of their first 5 games, I think it is, that they have faced probably one of the toughest run defenses in the league, overall combined out of those 5 games. I'm not sure what receivers you would be looking at here, but what do you think, Brian, for Rachaad White? What wide receiver would you be looking at for a bench spot? I would like to know what Patty has for running backs, because it seems seriously like you want to get every running back that's capable of running the ball on your team and on your
there.
bench, right? But Brian, what do you think? What value wise is he looking to be able to flip Rachaad White for to grab a wide receiver?
I don't know. Maybe like a Drake London or somewhere back in top 24, maybe.
I was kind of in the same mold there. Maybe like Christian Watson might be someone you might be able to get. Christian Kirk, guy we'll see tonight potentially. I think somebody seems reasonable.
Somebody that was really, really good last year and just hasn't shown up this year with the emergence of Ridley.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll get into it a little bit more. I think Kirk's outplayed Ridley this season for pretty much every week. I would say Calvin Ridley's been a bit of a disappointment. I think 4 or fewer receptions in 5 of his last 6 games, something like that. Other than that big week 1, it's been a little south for Ridley. Curious what we see tonight too.
Joshua's got Michael Thomas, Cortland Sutton, Joshua Palmer, Alexander Madison, Jameson Williams. Pick one wide receiver, one flex. We'll start with you, Steve.
So you can't pick Williams as much as I would like to say him, because he's really fun when he's out there. But I think he had 9 routes last week, 9 snaps, maybe one of the 2. It's not a good number. So you can't be confident with Williams yet. I don't mind Michael Thomas, and I don't mind Palmer given the matchup for the Chargers this week. So I guess I would go one wide receiver. Yeah, I'll go Thomas and Palmer.
Yeah, real quick on the Jameson Williams. I mean, he got 3 targets, caught 2 of them, but he had that big, 50-yard touchdown. So that's, again, you're not going to see that every single week as much as we would like to, though. Too. Yeah, as much as we'd like to have him on there. I do like. I know this is completely opposite of what I said in the very beginning of the season, but since Cam Akers has gotten to Minnesota, Alexander Madison has actually played ball. And actually, I don't know if it was like, oh, Cam Akers is here, and then Cam Akers taught him how to run the ball, but he's doing a very good job of it now. Brian, pick one wide receiver, one flex from that group.
Palmer and Madison for me.
All right, Joshua, hope that helps you out. It is a half PPR, by the way, he says.
Okay, yeah, I would agree. I don't mind Thomas, but yeah, I like Palmer just for the matchup. I think it's going to be high scoring.
Is he a drop player or hold? Which one are you referring to there?
Probably Jameson Williams.
Josh. Oh, Jameson Williams. I mean, I think you have to hold him, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you can drop him.
No, because I mean he's super efficient, and if he gets more routes, it's possible that. And I really like the scheme of the offense too. Yeah, I think he's definitely not a drop if you can manage it. Hopefully
right now,
routes go up.
For wide receiver 2 on the Lions, but he'll bypass both Raymond and also what's his name, Reynolds. He'll bypass them soon.
Yeah,
and then he'll get more targets within. But don't be shocked if it's this week. But within the next couple of weeks, he's going to get more targets.
So Patty, going back to Patty's question about the Rachaad White and the James Conner here, I asked him who he had for running backs, and he's got Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Rachaad White, Chuba Hubbard, and Conner right now. He also said he got rejected with Higgins, Hollywood, and Flowers. Yeah, if you would have tried this a week ago with Flowers, you probably would have got that done. But as soon as he caught that touchdown in London, everybody's like, oh, yeah, he can catch the ball. So, yeah, you're probably going to have to look at a back-end wide receiver 2 to mid wide receiver 3 and try to sell it that way.
That's unfortunate because those seem reasonable.
Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those do seem reasonable, and especially since you're giving up a running back that has already had his bye week. Patty, that would be something I would add into it to the sales pitch. Running back for sale, already had bye week, looking for mid wide receiver 2. Yeah, I don't know, but good luck with that. A couple quick ones. Aaron Jones, after missing week 5 and 6, looks like he will be ready to go this week. Daniel Jones is listed as out. Jeff Wilson from Miami looks like he's going to be good to go. Pratt Freiermuth is back. All right, Steven, let's let you get into what is going on this graph here and tell the good people what they're looking for.
Yeah, so the graph on the screen, the data is from NFL Next Gen Stats. I really like their stuff because they use the tracking data that isn't publicly available. It's pretty cool. Why I wanted to show you this graph, well, actually, I'll start by what it is first. So the x-axis is the average separation, number of yards the receiver separates at the time that either the pass is completed or it's incomplete. That's on the x-axis. The y-axis is the amount of yards after the catch, yak, above the expectation that NFL Next Gen Stats sets. So where you want to be is in the top right. That's where Tyreek Hill is. So not a surprise. That's where you want to be. That would mean you're getting a lot of separation on your routes and you're generating yards after the catch as well. I'm showing this graph this week for 2 reasons. The first is if you can see all of the Jaguars, I'll point them out, but the Jaguars pass catchers, there's Calvin Ridley in the bottom left. It's not where you want to be. Not great separation and not a lot of yards after the catch above what was expected of him. And then you have Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk on the bottom right. So not a lot of yak for the Chargers pass catchers. You can kind of see that too when you look at the explosive play rate for the Jaguars offense. It's not great. It's also not great for the Saints offense. I don't think we see a ton of explosive plays tonight. So that's reason number 1. Bad yak and then bad separation for Ridley. So that's unfortunate. The second reason is we talk about Sam Laporta a lot on the show for good reasons. Just another reason to show Sam Laporta up there on the top right, looking good.
I think something that as you brought up with the Evan Ingram and Ridley being down and Kirk being down, you got Michael Thomas and Chris Olave down there as well. It's
pretty poor explosive pass rates for both the Jags and the Saints. And then that's part of it, right? If you can get so Debo doesn't have enough targets to qualify for the graph, but if he did, he'd be all the way at the top, which isn't a surprise, along with AJ Brown, sort of known as the best yak monsters in the league. Mm-hmm. That helps with your explosive play rate, and you're just not seeing that from the Jags or, like you mentioned, too, Jay, from the Saints.
Yeah, I love that you bring these graphs to us every week, and you use these graphs in your article as well, do you not?
Yeah. So this is one of I have tons of graphs in the articles, usually at least 5 or so each week. This is just one of them. So if you like that, go look at my article, goingfor2.com.
Goingfor2.com. Alrighty, I want to get back over here right quick. Patty does have a offer that was sent to him. He got offered Josh Downs for Rachaad White.
So I like Downs, especially with the Minshew switch as well. I think a little bit more pass heavy. You're missing out on all the scrambles that Anthony Richardson's so good at. I still think it's not quite enough for White at this point. I would kind of hope for Downs plus something else. Curious what you guys think, but yeah, I don't know if it's quite enough.
Do we know if it's redraft or dynasty?
I've been assuming redraft.
I'm assuming it's redraft. Patty, let us know. We're assuming this is redraft. If it's dynasty, does that change it for you, Brian? If it was dynasty,
it would a little bit. I think Downs has more dynasty value than redraft. Right now, he's doing a great job, but I think longer term he's going to continue to develop. And White is what White's going to be. I think. I don't think I'm going to see a bump in his value at all.
Well, not until you see a quarterback that is not just going to YOLO ball it. Hello, Baker Mayfield. Thank you for being that guy this year for my Bucks. but
it's fun,
but I was not ready for it. The other side of that coin is with Downs. Yes, you got Gardner Minshew. Yes, it's going to be more of a pass heavy offense, but the routes that I think that Downs succeeds on are those intermediate crossing patterns. And guess who is in the backfield for that? And who's gonna take those? And I believe it's going to be JT that gets most of those looks from Minshew.
Yeah.
So I think this is This is close to fair, but I think I'm with you, Steven. I think for a running back that's already had his bye week, again, I'm going to use that as my selling point. I would want just a little bit more,
Yeah.
and even if that's I know maybe this would be too much, but AJ Dillon type, where he's possibly that late, maybe he's only a third down back. Maybe he's, not getting the looks that the Dome, maybe he's an RB3, but you can plug him into a flex and hopefully he vultures a touchdown somewhere.
Or even just like a high upside back, like a Zach. Not that Zach Charbonnet has really been that high upside, but someone like that maybe that if Kenneth Walker, which we don't want, but if he goes down with injury, then you have someone you can actually play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There you go. Patty, good luck with that. Jamie says, I finally able to sell Amari Cooper in one of my rebuilding teams. He got 2 second-rounders and Trey Palmer from the Bucks, another Buccaneer trade here. I thought it was a decent return. What do you guys think? I mean, you're rebuilding, Jamie. It's 2 second-rounders. That's always good. And then you're getting what could be with what the Bucks are doing. They, after this year, Mike Evans is not under contract. It's going to be Chris Godwin, and Trey Palmer is stepping into that role. I like this value you got for Amari Cooper. What do you guys think?
I think it's good value. I have to be perfectly honest, not being a Bucks fan necessarily, I don't really know much, if anything, about Trey Palmer, but I do like the other two. I do like the 2 seconds here for a rebuild.
Yeah, especially with Cooper aging. If you're in a rebuild, he's not going to be part of your championship roster, most likely. So, yeah, I like the return too.
Is ETN a lock tonight, even with the tough matchup? Let's start with you, Steve.
Given what we're looking at, I think Brian is in agreement with me on the props. I don't think so. I really like ETN. I think he's a really talented running back, and it is a really tough matchup, though. Both of these defenses are really, really good against the run. Not just the Saints, but the Jaguars. I think an underrated run defense as well. I don't know if he's a lock with a injured or slightly injured Trevor Lawrence. We're not sure exactly how good he's going to be, but yeah, tough matchup. I don't know if he's a lock, but if you do have another running back in your roster better than ETN, because well done if you do.
I don't know if you would call him a lock, but I think you have to play him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
He's a lock for 10 PPR points, but like you said, how many teams have theoretically 2 other running backs where you can sit ATN and then most leagues have multiple flexes too. So I don't see where you can get around starting him, but he's not a lock for what weeks he's had recently. So.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Jamie says Downs is seeing increased target share with Minshew. Sure, absolutely. I'm not arguing that fact. The issue is going to be coming last week was JT's second week back, right? This week will be his third week back, and guess who's going to be getting that target share on those easy crosses, check downs, whatnot. And I'm just being cautious over Downs. I like Downs, and I've always liked Downs. Just being cautious of we know JT's a better player than Josh Downs. We also know that JT will demand his targets, and he will get those. George play right here. And I'm 6-0. My team has Tua, CMC, Kenneth Walker, Cooper Kupp, Chris Olave. So are you flexing, telling us who your team is? Because this is a damn good team. His flex is James Cooks. His bench, he's got Tank Dell, Deontay, Roshan, Warren, Zach, Evans, Jameson, JSN, and Fields. Should I trade James effing Cook for a chain?
Yes. I unequivocally yes for me. Curious what you guys think. Yeah. I mean, you're 6-0.
Drive his ass to Miami and drop him off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, somebody will accept that trade. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Get a chan for the playoff run for sure.
Go get a chan. Yep. Bye, James Cook. See you later. You blow in the wind. All right, let's get back into it. What was your biggest takeaway from week 6, Brian?
Oh, I misunderstood the question, to be perfectly honest with you.
What was your takeaways from week 6? I'm sorry, from the first 6 weeks.
Okay,
the first 6 weeks.
Question. So,
well, if I told you at the beginning, words are not good, and I can't read.
So for the last say 3 years. I've played a hero back where I've got one back that's kind of a 3-down back, and then I go wide receivers after that for like 3 wide receivers to have one in the flex position. Well, I'm learning this year the somewhat hard way that you need as much running back depth as you can get for bye weeks and all that and injuries. So I'm learning. I don't know that I would change my plan, but I am learning that running backs are hard to come by. So
Yes, yes, they are. And this year has made it very apparent and slapped everybody in the face that went zero RB. I think
there's
Steven,
been a lot of opportunities for zero RBs, but what happens is the zero RBs are also getting hurt.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's what I'm saying. Is how the first 2 weeks you're like, oh yes, thank God I went zero RB. Then week 4 comes and you're like, shit, maybe I should have went.
Like Kyron Williams has been awesome.
Yeah.
But
then,
now he's going to miss 4 weeks or 3
and
weeks.
then like 3 levels deep, people are like Ronnie Rivers, and then now he's hurt too. It's like
exactly.
Now you're 4 levels deep. Like
now we're on to Zach Evans, and they bring
maybe
3 other
like
running backs.
Darrell Henderson. Yeah.
Like yeah. So.
All right, what was your biggest takeaway from the first 6 weeks there, Steve?
I think it's just looking at like the NFL as a whole, and we've seen this the last couple of years, but just how like dink and dunky most of the passing attacks are. Just defenses continue to do a really good job limiting explosive plays. We'll see 2 of those defenses tonight. They're just really doing well, both passing and rushing, just limiting explosive plays. You can see that a little bit through air yards per pass attempt. A half decade ago was like 8.3 yards per pass attempt. It's down to 7.7 around, and it's been down for the last couple of years. So I guess just more of a general point that it feels like you need to have players on teams with play callers that can scheme up big plays, like the Dolphins or the Lions. It just feels like not even you have to be right on the individual players, yes, but you have to have those guys on specific teams as well. I don't know. That's just more of a general point from what I've seen so far.
Do you feel that that has any correlation to the running quarterback?
I think so. Yes. But I think it's also defenses just playing a lot of too high and just keeping stuff in front of them. Like you see that kind of proliferating around the NFL too, of just playing like, we're just going to keep everything in front of us. We're going to prevent you from getting the big play. Mm-hmm. And then you need to have a really good play caller like a Mike McDaniel to scheme something up to still get those explosive plays, or you just have the fastest humans on earth. Again, the Dolphins, where you can just still do that anyway. But I think you see that with the dropping average, but there's a couple teams that are able to do it really successfully that are offsetting that a little bit, and just feels like you kind of have to have like a Raheem Mostert, a CMC, a Diggs, or like even like an Amon-Ra, or hopefully Jameson Williams. Like you want these guys on specific offenses. So you kind of have to be right on the team, and you have to be right on the player. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah. It seems like a lot of defenses, or when you, and I'll bring up the Bucs one more time, but from their 2002 year, they were a completely bend, don't break defense. They gave up a lot of yards between the 20s, but they didn't give up touchdowns.
So what happens a lot of times, and it's kind of surprising to me, is that when people are running their drafts, they don't think about, well, this offense was good last year, they're likely to be good again. They draft, we'll say, and this is a maybe somewhat bad example, but a player like DJ Moore that goes off one week, but it's been somewhat inconsistent other weeks because he's on a mediocre to poor offense. And there's even better examples of players like that. So
we're going to jump into a little bit more of tonight's game. Again, it is the Jags at the Saints. Saints are favored by 2 with a over-under of 40.5. Brian, who is one player that you are looking for to keep your eye on tonight from this game?
Well, it has to be Trevor Lawrence for me. He's been on the injury report all week, and then finally he's in a knee brace. So he's playing, but how is that knee going to hold up? And without Trevor Lawrence, then your backup quarterback over there is Blaine Gabbert, right?
Oh yeah, I thought it was CJ
Beathard. Yeah, CJ Beathard. So your production for all Jaguars players goes down if CJ Beathard enters the room.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I find it, and we'll talk about this when we get to the Chrome Dome parlay of the night, but I find it hard. You can't sit some of these guys, right? Because of where you drafted them, of course, with bye weeks or and whatnot. But I find it hard to sit there and look at this game tonight. Like both of you have mentioned multiple times, both of these defenses are very, very good.
Really good.
I find it hard to sit there and look at this game and go, yes, I can't wait to fire up XYZ player, right? At the same time, I find it hard to go, man, this is going to be a great fantasy game because I don't think it's going to be a good fantasy game.
So yeah, I don't think so either. But to your point, like, I don't know, with 6 teams on bye, you're not benching some of these players. You have to play them.
Right. Yep. Who's the player you're looking to keep your eye on tonight, Steve?
So for the Jaguars, I'll say Calvin Ridley. We kind of already brought him up. Hasn't looked amazing other than that big week 1. 4 targets or fewer in all but one of his game after week 1. Just kind of curious. Hasn't gotten a lot of separation like we saw. Not a lot of yards after the catch. I think Christian Kirk, in my opinion, has not played him. I think it's a Kirk game. I think I had a stat here. The Saints are a lot more vulnerable to slot wide receivers than they have been to wide receivers out wide. And obviously Kirk plays 71% of his snaps from the slot. And then Calvin Ridley plays only 14% of his snaps from the slot. So if they're going to be attacking the slot, it's going to be Kirk and not Ridley. But yeah, just kind of hoping to see Ridley look good. Just more past the eye test. I don't know. He's still getting a lot of targets, but not a ton of production recently. So hoping that improves for him.
There is one person that I do want to keep an eye on tonight, and that is Travis Etienne. I do want to see, we play a game with fantasy that I think you can honestly correlate a lot of what we want to have happen to what Vegas puts out there as far as their numbers. And I think that if you look at what Vegas has for the line for Travis Etienne tonight at 64.5, I believe it is. Yep. Yeah, 64.5 is what they have it right now. He's hit that 3 out of 6 weeks, but he hasn't hit it 3 out of 6 weeks. So, it's a tough matchup, but he can also hit that on one play too. If he gets through that, second line of defense. But I'm interested to see how much he actually gets run, because I think this is his backfield. Don't get me wrong, but I also do believe that Tank Bigsby, and again, we'll talk about this in a little bit. I do believe Tank Bigsby gets more than 3 to 5 tonight, more than 3 or 5 touches tonight, because it's going to be a physical game. And I think that you're going to see a lot more rushing, even though the Saints D is very good up front. They're going to have to try to run the ball to keep the pressure off of Trevor Lawrence, and to keep it out of Trevor Lawrence's hand, as he drops back and gets that pressure in his face. They don't want him to get hit, especially with that knee. It ain't going to take much.
Yep.
So you put that kind of money into a player. Watch where where Vegas sees it going, and that's somebody you should definitely keep an eye on, in my opinion. Any thoughts on Travis Etienne tonight, Steve or Brian?
Like you mentioned, I think we'll see it in the props, but yeah, have him going under that line this week. I really like Etienne, the talent, but tough matchup, concerns with health, probably a low-scoring game. I think you're going to play him if he's on your roster. You basically have to, unless you have a great team like one of the teams that we saw earlier tonight. But yeah, you pretty much have to play him.
Well, if you haven't noticed already, I do bounce back and forth between the game and then some of the other discussion we were having. So make sure that if you are over there on Twitter, you're on Facebook, any of the other social media platforms, and you want to get your question answered, jump in over on the YouTube side of things. Throw your question into the chat, whether it's a start sit for tonight, whether it's a trade question like we've had it already. Any of those questions, we'll be more than happy to give you some advice on, give you our opinion on, and we can move on from there. Stock up, stock down going into week 7. Brian, let's start with you. Who is your stock up for week 7?
Well, I'm going to say he's not extremely sexy or anything. I mean, he's definitely not going to win a beauty contest, but I went with Sam Howell. At the beginning of the year, I wouldn't have drafted him in my top 24 quarterbacks. And for the last 3 weeks has actually been QB4 across those three weeks, and at least in one league that I'm in. And I'm not sure if on Sleeper what he's been, but he's had 6 touchdown passes over that 3-week span, and for 800 and some odd yards, maybe 830 or 40 yards. So he's been a lot better than I expected.
Yeah, he's QB 12 overall right now on Sleeper. I am trying to pull it up as quick as I can. Getting over here right now. I want to, because I do actually want to see where they do have him for the last couple weeks. And there it is. And then there it is. Let's see what Sam Howell has been for the last couple weeks. QB 13, QB 5, QB 8 over on Sleeper for the last 3 weeks. Pretty damn solid.
Yeah.
And here's the thing with him is, and I put out a short the other day about him. The next 5 games, he's got the Giants, the Eagles, which again, by the way, 41 of 29 for 290 and a tutty in the Eagles game already. Not a bad day.
Nope.
Giving you just over 20 fantasy points. Then he's got New England, Seattle, and the Giants again.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty good, Bob.
It's particularly impressive too, given how many sacks he takes. I know we talked about that I think a couple weeks ago, but so many sacks. I mean, it's pretty impressive how efficient and how good he's been in fantasy, just given that, because it's really hard to get high end touchdown efficiency, especially when you take as many sacks as he does.
Yeah, and the other thing with him is he's only lost 1 fumble, so he doesn't turn the ball over a ton. And listen, take the Buffalo game away. 4 interceptions in that game. I know we can't take it away, but outside of that game, if you take that game, he's 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. With over 1,500 yards passing on the season.
And he doesn't give you a monster rushing floor, but he gives you just enough to help you a little bit too. So
absolutely, 215 yards rushing on the year. But here's the other side of that is he's playing without Jahan Dotson, or maybe he's not playing with. Maybe Jahan Dotson's there. I don't know. I haven't heard of him this year.
That's my stock down player this week. Is Dotson.
I know that's where I was going. So I just wanted to lead you into that. No.
Oh God, Dotson. I mean, it really disappointing. Just because it's a guy that I really liked coming into the season. There was some stuff that really called out that, like, hey, he had a pretty good rookie season, 7 touchdowns, like flashed some talent, above average score in the ESPN receiver metric that I really like. It's just like, okay, this is gonna be a really good year for Jahan Dotson. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, he's just completely droppable at this point in your redraft league, which is just so disappointing. I mean, Curtis Samuel is outplaying him. Neither qualified with enough targets to make the graph that we showed earlier. But if it did, Jahan Dotson would be in the bottom left, exactly where you don't want to be. And Samuel's actually all the way to the right. He's earned a ton of separation per route that he's been out there. He's just been outplaying Dotson. I don't know. It stinks. In Dynasty, I don't have a ton of advice. He's just a hold in Dynasty. I think you can't sell him at his current value. But in redraft, I think you just let him go.
I don't know if you how much.
Sure why that. I really wasn't sure why that milk carton was expired, but yeah, I think
I don't know how much you dove into the numbers, but just a real quick glance at it. Dotson and Samuel have the exact same number of targets.
Yeah, 31, I want to say.
31.
Yeah.
And Samuel has 10 more receptions.
Yeah, he's just outplaying them.
140, basically 145 yards more than Dotson. Dotson has 140. Samuel has 285.
And I saw on Twitter he's going to be their kick holder now. Did you see that too?
Who is?
Dotson. Like they
got to put the ball in his hand somehow.
Like what is happening?
and the sad thing is the Samuel wouldn't be at the top of your waiver priority list. So why should you even maintain Dotson? So
you got to get rid of Dotson. It's really unfortunate, but I think you just cut him.
Yeah, at this point, you need the roster space for somebody that's actually going to produce for you. And that is not going to be Dotson. All right, Steve, there was your stock down. Who is your stock up this week?
Yeah, just, I feel kind of gross saying this. The stock up player is Adam Thielen. He's not a player that I'm usually ever going to like. I just recognizing my own biases. Seeing his advance, like every single year, his metrics, his advanced metrics, all going down consistently. Like a guy that's clearly shown signs of being a little bit dusty, changes teams this year, and then gets 13 targets every week. So just the complete opposite, a guy that I can completely missed on, but I'm always going to miss on a guy like this. Huge. I mean, if he's just getting this volume, he's got to be a stock up player. I guess my main point with that is I would like to see Bryce Young play with 3 receivers that are as good as current Adam Thielen. Just get him some guys he can throw the ball to, because the rest of the guys are not it.
They had a guy.
Yeah,
I can't remember what his name is, but evidently they're looking for a new guy.
Yeah.
As rumor has it.
Wonder if DJ Moore's available. We can go get him.
I don't know. Brian, who is your stock? Let's end it on a bad note. Who's your stock down?
Well, he doesn't deserve to get like milk carton treatment by any means, but Devonta Smith has not been great the last.
Tell me about it.
AJ Brown's got like 420 or 430 yards receiving, while Smith has 128 in that same time frame with 0 touchdowns. So as good as that offense has been, Devontae has not been the big part of that at all. So he's my stock down based on how we drafted him.
Yeah, but Skinny Batman came out, was it yesterday or today, and said, you fantasy managers that have shares of me, don't you worry. Don't you worry.
I think he'll be fine.
I mean, well, I think even A.J. Brown might even have a little slide here shortly because of the senior might be the senior coming out of the senior home, flying in from Tampa.
How confident are you that he can beat out Olamide Zaccheaus for wide receiver 3? I would love to say that he's going to do it. But I don't know.
No. I say that 100% tongue in cheek. That is, I'm bullshitting right now. Before fantasy receipts gets me, that I'm bullshitting. I'm bullshitting. All right, guys. Anything else you want to talk about going into this game before we get into the Chrome Dome parlay of the night?
One thing for me, the Saints offensive line, woof, a lot of injuries there. I think Ramczyk, I might be mispronouncing that. He's not going to play. They're moving Andres Pete, who's a guard. He's going to start at left tackle tonight, which I think is really interesting, and not Penning, their former first round pick. A lot of concerns on the offensive line for the Saints. Just wanted to call that. I'm curious to see how Pete does at left tackle.
It's just Derek Carr back there. He's rubber. That's the way they're acting anyway. I mean, they paid the man a lot of money to just think he's rubber back there.
The Jags are just, for how good they are at defense, they're just kind of okay at pressure rate. So it's not like an elite team that's going to get after them. But yeah, I mean, we might see some pressure if their offensive line just can't hold up.
Yeah, I just wanted to go over and see if there was any crazy, speaking, as much as we've talked about the defense, I just wanted to look and see if there was any kind of crazy sack prop tonight. There's really not. Josh Allen at 0.75 over under. Everybody else seems to be at 0.25 over under. So
yeah,
they're nothing crazy. I was really hoping that somebody was going to spike on there and be at like 1.5.
You can take the under.
Yeah, then you can take the under, right?
Yeah.
But there's not. Brian, anything you want to add to the week that we have coming up, or the game we have coming up with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Saints?
The only thing I don't remember if we covered or not is Jamal Williams is going to be coming off of IR and supposed to be active tonight. So I don't know that that's got a huge fantasy impact, but he'll be back. So.
Yeah, I did see that on there, and I did forget to mention that. I kind of glanced right over that thinking I was going to come back to it, and, well, I did not. Jamie, one more question from Jamie. In redraft, would you drop Mims or Reed for JSN? Which one would you drop if you would drop either one of them for JSN?
I would. I'd drop Mims. I really like Mims.
But if I had to pick one, Mims.
Yeah.
JSN had his biggest, not that it was a big week, but he had almost 50 yards receiving last week, and he's going to start becoming a bigger part of the offense. And both Lockett and Metcalf, although they might wind up playing, are on the injury report at this point in the week. So
yeah, I think I definitely want JSN over both of them, but I think Mims specifically would be the guy if I have to cut one. He's just not getting enough routes. He should get more routes. I don't know why, but he's not.
Yeah, I'm taking a quick glance over here. I just want to look. Reed is at wide receiver 53. Then you have J.S. Sanders at like wide receiver 83. A little interesting.
The routes are going up. The participation's going up. I don't know. I'm optimistic. Of the three, I'm easily most optimistic on JSN for the rest of the year.
He almost averaged double figures for yards per target or yards per reception last week, where the first 4 weeks before the bye, he was getting like 3 catches for -3 yards.
Yeah, just like flat routes and stuff where it's like -2 air yards to him. Like,
that's not going to help your overall stats much. So
yeah.
Maybe the coach has figured that out. So
we should use this guy down the field. We spent a first-round pick on him.
Maybe he's thinking he's the same age as he is, and maybe we shouldn't hurt him.
So as I'm looking at it, Mims is wide receiver 55. You have Jaden Reed, which is wide receiver 53. Reed's gotten more attempts, more targets than Mims. And then you JSN's way further back because he hasn't had the touchdown or whatever. But if I'm looking at it, I think I would drop Reed before I would drop Mims.
Like I said, my answer was a little off cuff, but the one thing about target share, if for Reed is if both Dobbs and Watson are healthy, then that gives him a bump down. And last week they just basically, I forget who the viewer was, they mentioned the possibility of Judy sitting. Well, he did. So your route tree is going to be possibly thinned out.
So. I don't know. I guess I'm jaded. Like they're just going to keep playing like little Jordan Humphrey over him. I just don't feel like I can be confident that they're going to put him out there. I don't know why, but I just don't. I don't know. They just haven't, and they should, but they haven't. And I don't know if they will.
All right, guys. I'll give you this quick PSA. Don't forget, while you're setting your lineups, take your Thursday night players out of your flex, move them into their positions so that you have that flexibility come Sunday and Monday. With that said, it's time for the Chrome Dome parlay of the night. Steven, you want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah, all right. I can go first. Start with your parlay tonight.
All right. So we kind of talked about ETN already. I have him under 64.5 yards. The other two that I really like, Christian Kirk over 4.5 receptions. I think that's moved up to 5 now. I liked it better at 4.5, but obviously, yeah, over 4.5 receptions. Like I said, I think the Saints defense is a lot more susceptible to receivers in the slot than they are out wide. I think it's more of a Kirk game than Ridley game for a lot of reasons. The other one that I kind of liked too was Rashid Shaheed over 34.5 receiving yards. I had a stat here too. The Jags have given up the most fantasy points in the league to wide receivers out wide. Pretty good defense overall, but a lot better playing against the slot. Rashid Shaheed spends over half his time out wide. To that end, so do the other receivers. Thomas does as well, and Olave. But I think if they're going to succeed, it's going to be out wide rather than inside. I could see at least one kind of deep shot to Shaheed, who's played really well. Would have had a long touchdown if Carr didn't kind of short arm it last week with the shoulder injury. But 34.5 seems okay. I think he's tied with Thomas in team air yard share, but his receiving line is like 20 yards under Thomas's. So yeah, I like Shaheed over too. So Shaheed over, I like ETN under, and then Kirk receptions 4.5 over.
I will give you mine, and I will let Brian finish it off. Tonight, I am taking Derek Carr under 232.5 passing in 6 games. He's only hit that twice. Yes, I know he was injured, but he hasn't even come close in the other 4 games. So I am going under, especially like we have said multiple times, that the defenses of both of these teams, you're probably going to want to hit the under on passing. Even for Trevor Lawrence, his passing number is like 212 or something like that. It's just crazy with the weapons that he has. I am also going to go under on the overall score of 40.5, which means it's probably going to be a 31-30 game. It's just so that Vegas can sit there and go like this to me. Or I'm gonna instead of doing the middle fingers, I'm just gonna say that they're gonna Eli Manning me. And then here's the one I kind of touched on earlier that I really, really like and it's Tank Bigsby. And I like Tank Bigsby over 10.5 rushing yards. Here's my thought process here, as I do think, like I said earlier, that they're going to have to try to keep the ball out of Trevor Lawrence's hands as far as dropping back too many times, getting hit too many times. So they're going to want to give the ball to the running backs. And I don't think that they don't want to kill ETN tonight in the sense of giving him too much. So I do think that Tank Bigsby will be involved tonight. And to be quite honest, I think if you're a Tank Bigsby, if you're a believer in Tank, he only needs 3 or 4 touches to get 10.5 yards. I think that's a super low number for him.
I really like that. I saw you put that on there. I really liked it. I think I'd be comfortable up to like 15 yards, which is a pretty big difference there. Yeah, I like that too. I almost copied you on the Bigsby over.
Yeah. So, Brian, take it away. Who is yours tonight?
Well, I'm going to first say you don't have to be even a big believer to say that you can get 10 yards and 3 carries. So that's
well, I was honestly, when I thought about how many carries he would need, I had a triplet for me, so I had to, then I had to do math, and it was it was a thing.
Yes, I mean, you don't have to be a big believer at all. It's okay. So I kind of used part of your all's parlay as well. My final score is Saints 21, Jags 17. So I'm going with the under. I parlayed on Steven. I agree. ATN under 64.5 yards rushing. I went Trevor Lawrence. Well, the total I saw for passing yards was 219, but it sounds like it went even further. But I'll still go negative. I don't think it's a low enough number for me to go over. And then my other two, Alvin Kamara over 50.5 rushing yards seems kind of low to me. So I'm going to go with that. And my final piece of the parlay will be Olave over 62.5. He's really had some interesting games. He's had 2 where he had like 10 yards or less. So if he gets anything, he'll get over 62.5. So
they have
my predictions.
They have used Olave completely wrong this year compared to what they were using him for last year. And he gained so many yak yards last year that this year they're just running straight down the field, run the deep route. That offensive line, like you brought up, Steve, cannot protect Derek Carr. Derek Carr is having a hard time getting the ball down to him. It is mind-blowing on how opposite they are using Olave this year compared to last year.
Yeah, I don't know. And he's got a shoulder injury too. So then, I mean, I don't know if you watch just that one snap I talked about with Shaheed too. Shaheed would have scored a touchdown there if Carr hit him in stride last week. And he didn't. He kind of like Shaheed had come back to the ball. It was still a big gain. And Shaheed made a nice play on the ball, but he shouldn't have had to. He was open and would have had a big touchdown. And then he turned into a contested catch that wasn't a touchdown. You just wonder how healthy he is getting the ball down the field too. But yeah, agreed on the Olave usage. It's been weird.
All right, Steve. Brian gave his final score tonight, 21-17 Saints. So this was not on the show sheet, but as Brian said that, I want to know what your final score is going to be tonight.
I think I mostly agree with that. I think it's under. I think the Saints win, and it's close. So like 20-17, slightly different, but like, yeah, agreed.
I'm flipping it. I'm going to say it's 21-18 Jaguars.
Jags.
Yep, taking the Jags. All right, real quick, one last question for each of you, and I'll start with you, Vandy grad. Brian, who is going to be the fantasy MVP tonight?
Alvin Kamara.
Brian. I'm sorry, Steve.
I really want to say Rashid Shaheed. What if he just goes off and has a massive game? I'll go Olave. I think he could have a really nice game.
Okay. I don't hate that. I am going to be Captain Obvious here, and it's going to be Travis Etienne. He is going to get 2 touchdowns, but he's not going to hit 62.5. They're going to be closer. So that's just where I am with that. All right, for Brian, where can they find you? What do you got working on?
They can find me at VandyGrad92 on X. But then on Friday nights, you can find me for frequency's sake. I've got a podcast called DFS Deep Dive, and that's a lot of fun, and I give a lot of good information. And then on Sunday, I do their main show. So you can find me all over the place.
Stephen, where can they find you outside of your article that we have already said is on Going for Two? Where can they get you?
Yeah, target shares on Twitter. Also been working on, like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, this interception model that tries to predict whether a quarterback will throw at least one pick or not, using those for underdog props. Had a better week last week than I did the week before, but still improving on that. So yeah, if you like that kind of thing, if you like graphs, target shares on Twitter.
Great content from both of these guys on Twitter, as well as on the website, as well as here on Thursday nights with you. Don't forget to check out Going for Two's Discord. You can get the free access to that. Go over to goingfor2.com. Click on the right, at the very bottom right corner. There is a link to get into the Discord. We are all in that Discord. Maybe not as active as everybody else, but the B League's in there. You've got, Shane Manila's in there. You've got Jeff is in there. You've got the guys from Cheat Sheets there. Everybody is in there. Go check them out. Don't forget to hit that like, hit that subscribe button. It is Thursday night. It is week 7. Go set your lineups. Make sure you get your players that are in tonight out of the flex positions. Put them into your regular starting positions. And with that said, for Brian, for Steven, it's been another Gambit night. Y'all enjoy. Happy fantasy football weekend, baby.
Yeah.